and welcome to Legal Affairs. My name is Diamond Litty, and I'm the public defender for the 19th Judicial Circuit. We are really going to be talking law today, and we're going to be talking about a subject that is the basic foundation of all kinds of cases, criminal, civil, whatever the case may be. And we are very honored to have Brandon Perron with us. Good morning, Brandon. How are you?
Good morning, Diamond. Thanks for having me.
And Brandon he is a criminal, civil, everything investigator, but his title is much more lengthy than that. And I'm going to let him explain exactly his title, credentials, etc., and then we're going to talk a little bit about your background.
Well, I prefer the title, the poet, philosopher, soldier of fortune, professional investigator. Romanticize it as much as possible.
Right.
But I'm a Florida licensed private investigator, have been since 1989. Also a former United States Air Force criminal investigator and a former public defender investigator here right in the 19th Judicial Circuit, and still currently work with your office. On a contract basis and consultant, running an investigation training program on school, as well as consulting in a variety of different topics and subjects. A little bit of a go-to person in a lot of areas. Much of my practice now in my profession deals with training and consulting. I train the Pentagon investigators, criminal defense investigators, work for the United States military, the Marine Corps, Air Force, Army, all of the investigators who handle the cases out of Gitmo, the terrorism cases. We train all their investigators, all from a program and a methodology of investigation that was born right here. And,
by you?
Yes, and promoted by you. I mean, it was actually, I will take 100% credit for developing the actual methodology, but it was developed at the request of you when you were a brand new public defender back in 1994.
Yeah.
It just came on, and it was all about being able to come with standards, best practices for criminal defense investigation. As you know from your own past in history working in the field as an attorney, investigators used to be very shoot from the hip, especially on the criminal defense side. No philosophy, no specific methodology.
Well, and no organization.
No.
I mean, back in the day, an investigator, it just...
Retired police officer just trying to get by on whether something extra to do, and it's become, we've had a mission over the past 30 years to professionalize it, to create a specific discipline, which it has.
Oh, and boy, have you.
Yeah, and it's really been great. But in my private practice, too, in my investigation company, Investigative Support Specialists Incorporated, we've been here on the Treasure Coast since '89.
Right, you have an actual office.
Yes.
People can hire you to do private.
We do criminal, we do civil.
Right.
Regulatory, as you said in your opening statement, that investigation is the foundation of more than just criminal cases, civil cases, regulatory actions, compliance cases.
Right.
Human resources have to conduct investigations in any organization, institutionalized or private company. Investigation is the bedrock of justice. I mean, without effective investigation, there is no justice. You cannot build the truth on top of false information or false premises, so it's crucial.
And now, we got to get back. I want to go back a second, but as far as, I'm just curious, I don't think I've ever asked you this.
Now,
excuse me. Do you absolutely make up your mind before you investigate to stay objective and not, go the route, let's say you're hired for or whatever? Can you maintain that objectivity? How do you maintain that objectivity? Or is your job to put the pieces together to fit the ultimate goal or desired outcome?
My philosophy, and the philosophy I train in, which I believe is the only philosophy that you could have, is that the investigator must be an impartial and objective advocate of the truth, period. Even when you're working in a private case or working with an attorney in a criminal civil case, the attorney may have a narrative that they want to push or pursue.
Right. Whether it's a slip and fall, a car accident case, whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
I recognize the narrative, but I don't drink the Kool-Aid. I conduct an investigation to uncover facts and evidence that exist. Now, I get it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly, I like to say. Because I believe every attorney, anyone who's trying to build a case, needs to know the strengths and the weaknesses. Many times, an attorney, for instance, will have a narrative in their mind based on past experiences of similar cases, because every case also has its own unique DNA, because every case has its own unique people and circumstances. So even though they may look the same, like something we've done before, that can lead us astray down the rabbit hole, so to speak. So I like to slow down, hold back, put all the information together, and let the attorney see what the reality is. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Sometimes they'll have a narrative in their mind, an avenue they want to pursue, but when they see the facts, they will see, number one, oh, this is bad. But that's important. Even the ABA standards require that an investigation be done before any plea deal be pursued. That's ABA standards. You know, Rule 4.1, that's there. And so that's important, because let's see what the reality is. And the reality might be, oh boy, we need to plea this case because it's worse than you thought. Our own investigation has revealed there's a lot of bad here. We need to make something happen.
And let me stop you. I want you to finish this, but lawyers have an ethical rules that they have to follow, or they can lose their license.
Many.
What about you folks? Do investigators, private investigators, have an ethical? Okay. Then you can get unlicensed?
Yes. I mean, our license can be revoked just as anybody else's can. We have the Division of Licensing in Florida, for instance. It's state by state, just like it is for lawyers. It's state by state, and we have to pass tests, and we have to have certain experiences, and then we have to comply by the rules and the ethics of our licensing. People can file complaints against investigators. There's investigators in the Division of Licensing to investigate the investigators.
Okay. And have you seen investigators actually unlicensed, delicensed, what's the word, lose their license?
Oh, I see. We got a list every quarter of all the ones who are fined and penalized or lose their license, and the list is long. You see a lot. How many people are out there engaging in unlicensed activity? They just, start doing things on the side, and so even if you're not licensed in Florida to be a licensed private investigator, if you engage in investigation, the division still has authority over you for, any kind of criminal prosecution.
Okay, and let's back up just a second. What, to be a lawyer, you got to go to college, law school, take the bar, pass it. It's a lot more detailed than that, but that's the Reader's Digest version. What about to be a private licensed investigator? What's the criteria?
To be a licensed private investigator in Florida, there is a 2-year internship that's required. So let's start from a person who has no prior experience in law enforcement, investigation, or anything that would be considered. Okay,
and let's go back. And what about education?
There is no the specific education requirement is a 40-hour training course that they have to take for Florida. Yeah, to be licensed, you don't have to have a bachelor's degree or associate's degree. That's not a requirement for licensing. So you have to have 2 years experience, you have to pass the test, and you have to take the 40-hour classes based on the laws and such like that.
Gotcha.
That's the minimum to be licensed. Now, the problem with there is it's kind of the chicken and the egg thing, because getting the 2 years experience is always the hard thing for people. So they have to have an internship, and it's two years, which is actually based on 40 hours a week. So it has to be, based upon, I think it's 4,160 hours they have to have of experience under their belt. Or a combination of 1 year of education can substitute 1 year of training. So if they have a year of college in criminal justice, that 1 year could account for 1 year of the experience.
Gotcha. Yeah. Now, what about continuing education? Do you have to...
Florida doesn't require continuing education. Other states do. We have actually tried to get the legislature to pass that, but we don't. So what happens if you belong to different organizations, like the Criminal Defense Investigation Training Council is something that's national and international.
And you're involved in all of those.
Yes.
I mean, goodness.
I'm actually the founder. So in that organization, you have to have continuing education credits. You have to have education, 40-hour academy class you have to attend, recommendations from 2 criminal defense attorneys that you are a person of quality and experience they see as an expert. You have to have worked at least 25 comprehensive cases within a 2-year period. Comprehensive being, you just didn't go take a statement. You actually worked there from A to Z. You applied all 6 steps of the component method of investigation as a good reference.
And as far as what your job entails, it's not just the actual investigation, the nuts and bolts, the taking the photographs, the talking to witnesses, the putting all the pieces together to hand it to the criminal or civil attorney to tell them what you have discovered. But you actually have to testify at trial if there is a trial.
Many times,
correct?
it could be in a direct, it could be that we are a witness and being called by the defense attorney to, communicate something that only we can introduce.
Right.
Of course, if the prosecution doesn't stipulate to it, that's something we have to do. I find that the best investigators keep themselves out of the witness chair as much as possible.
Right.
And the reason is that if you're going to be involved in every aspect of the case, for instance, working with you, I become your lieutenant in many respects. Your intelligence officer.
Right.
We're going to
right.
war. And
right.
keeping me close is important because if you list me as a witness, then I can no longer, if they invoke the rule, I can no longer sit in the courtroom close to you and giving you information, giving you my insight, recognizing when there's inconsistencies or discrepancies in witnesses' statements
Right.
or evidence.
Right.
I have to sit out in the hallway where I'm of no value.
Right.
So if we're going to be doing anything that I can anticipate the possibility I'll testify, I'll try to bring another investigator in just to take those photos.
Right.
Just to collect that. And
Gotcha.
that way you can just call them in and I can still be close to the attorney in that side chair position. Sometimes they're just in the first row, right behind you, and be available. As you know, you've been through many trials and you want that investigator close. They're often at the side chair with you in those big cases.
Oh, yeah.
Because really, the investigator, if they did their job right, has done a line-by-line, page-by-page analysis of every fact, all the evidence. Who knows that case better inside and out than that?
I was going to say, I mean, and as a lawyer handling a case, whether it's civil or criminal, you do tend to focus on certain things and lose sight of some of the minor things, which as a trial, unfolds, could be the catalyst, could be the fact that exonerates your client or gets your client a $10 million verdict or whatever the case may be. Now, what is your, I know you've done both, I'm just curious, is your preference criminal investigations, civil investigations? What about in a domestic situation, a divorce? What about that situation? Do you ever do anything like that?
Mostly with custody issues. Florida is a no-fault state when it comes to divorces. Of course, people have the misconception that means everything's just automatically split 50-50, which isn't reality.
Right.
So evidence of either party spending money outside of that marriage stuff can have an impact on where the slide goes.
Right.
I'm stepping on my lane, so that's more of your lane. You're an attorney, but it does have it. But we don't do a lot of that. There is custody issues become a concern. Investigators are brought into custody actions, dependency cases where it's children's well-being are at stake. An investigator can be very, very valuable. Evidence is needed to demonstrate to a judge that there is a concern for the child, their welfare and safekeeping, well-being. And that's all that a lot of people don't realize, that judges have no impact by the crying and the emotion of the parents or the husband. They see it every day. But when you can deliver them evidence that can key in on there's an issue relative to the well-being of a child, they perk up.
Right.
And I've always been amazed, how little things can be brought into a case where all of a sudden the judge hung their decision on that one factual point. Where, I had a case once where there was a busy road and there was a house, and there was a big party going outside of the house, and there was like a big party of people, and there was a 4-year-old child inside the house. Well, they were out partying and getting drunk, and family was having a good old time. No one's watching the kid, and we were getting evidence of that. You know what the judge was concerned with? Not that there was partying and drinking and a big brawl broke out. How long was that door open? Could that child have any time walked out into the street by themselves?
Right.
Were they not supervised? And how fast were those cars going? And that was probably 20 years ago I had that case or so. And it always stuck in my mind that judges look for specific facts that are compelling.
And each judge is different.
Yeah.
What might bother or concern one judge,
the other one ignored.
that doesn't matter. What concerns me is drunkenness, the drugs, whatever. Yeah.
That's why it's so demanding. So as an investigator, people who going into the field, want to go into the field, we get a lot of calls from high school students and such like that, or young college students who want to go into the field. And they say, what do I have to do to become an investigator? And I say, well, what you have to do is hard work. It's really hard to get into. It really is.
Well, and I don't think people realize, and correct me if I'm wrong, how many hats an investigator has to wear to be able to uncover the truth, to find out the facts, to and take a criminal case, let's say with mitigation, which is the factor that a court can consider to reduce a sentence for someone who's convicted of a crime. Those mitigation facts are so important. But if the investigator doesn't have the personality, can't relate to the mother, the sister, the brother, the priest, whatever, they're dead in the water.
Oh,
I mean, there's so much more to what you do than people even realize. And
You just said so much, too.
But it's true.
That, you just, when you were saying it, there's just so much there. Just the idea that when an investigator picks up a criminal case, for instance, when I was on the law enforcement side, I didn't concern myself with mitigation. I didn't even probably know what it meant.
Right.
That concept was like foreign. You had what you had to get, uncover evidence to support probable cause, move on. When you work on the criminal defense side as an investigator, first of all, it's important for people to understand that people who work on the criminal defense side, lawyers and investigators, we are not here to get guilty people off. We are here first and foremost, just like your office is, which is a firm believer in the Sixth Amendment of the United States Constitution. You defend the Constitution of the United States, and that is the Sixth Amendment, which nobody worries about until they need it.
Yeah.
That everybody has a right to a fair trial, period.
Right.
Everybody has a right to a speedy trial. And
Right.
it's amazing because right now, all of the things that's happening under COVID-19, all of the restrictions,
Yeah.
a lot of our rights are suspended. And
Yeah.
we know all too well which ones they are.
Right.
And
Right.
it's the, there's a constitutional crisis in that respect right now. But when investigators work in a case, they have to look for evidence relative to guilt or innocence, evidence relative to mitigation evidence which would impact potential sentencing. Just
Right.
because someone's guilty of something, that doesn't mean they should be throw away the key.
Right.
That there may be reasons that it happened, and it's amazing what you can uncover in mitigation in an investigation.
With the right investigator.
Yes.
How often have we seen you send one investigator in, or I hate to say it, the attorney talks to the mother or the sister and I don't know anything. I didn't see anything. I never heard that he would beat her when she was drunk or whatever. And then you get another investigator in, either a different one or someone other than the attorney trying to gather evidence, and bam, and they all of a sudden the person breaks down and says, "Oh my goodness, yes, the domestic abuse happened for 15 years. I saw it every day. It was,
Empathy, a powerful tool.
Oh my God.
You used the word before, personality. I always say to people, what do you need to be an investigator? Intelligence, but you also need personality. If you don't have one, get one.
Yeah. Yeah.
If people don't want to talk to you, you're useless. 90% of what we do as investigators is we have to communicate with people. We have to connect with people. We have to make them feel comfortable in telling us their family secrets, their darkest thoughts. And they have to feel comfortable doing it. And going back to what you said about it's important for an attorney not to do their own investigation. Well, first of all, on multiple levels, so they don't become a witness to their own evidence. They can't rebut it. But I always make this point that when you ask any attorney, and yourself, say, when you went to law school, how many classes in investigation did you have?
None.
Zero. I'm not a lawyer, right? You're not an investigator.
Right.
So everybody I've taught, thousands and thousands over the years, know my saying, stay in your lane.
Yeah.
And when I sit at the table with 6 lawyers on a big case or 1 lawyer, I stay in my lane, and my lane is when I want you to look at me is, this is an investigative question, you're the expert, what do we do here?
Right.
And you do need to have so many hats in what we do because we're dealing with humanity. You have to be a lover of humanity. You don't have to love everybody in it.
Yeah.
But you have to love humanity, you gotta love people.
Right.
And we are there in many ways. They are being oppressed, and many times there are many innocent people who are falsely accused in criminal and civil courts.
Well, and we got to stop you there because we have a story, without using any names or too much detail, obviously, because this just happened. People who are totally innocent actually get arrested. And we have something
every day.
That happened just recently that, thank God for great investigation.
And great lawyers getting on top of it, paying attention.
The person is out of jail,
Yesterday.
free. Absolutely. Give us a thumbnail version of the facts.
You know, without going into the case and saying names because it's still active, there is that someone was falsely accused of an attempted murder, and what happened was they had a name that was almost very similar to the name of the actual perpetrator. Their date of birth is 1 day off from the perpetrator. They live in the same city. They look very much alike. And it led the police to identify this one defendant as the suspect. And unfortunately for him, when his photo was taken to a girlfriend who works in that specific location where the shooting happened, she immediately jumped on the opportunity not to identify her boyfriend because the real shooter was her boyfriend. She said, yes, that's the guy. And so an innocent man spent at least a month in jail.
Right.
And, you know, when people will say, it's only 30 days.
Oh,
really?
my gosh. Just the people that say that, I will call my office. I will call the sheriff. I'll get you inside of that jail. You can hear the doors clang. You can.
Horrible.
Yeah. I mean,
we're Americans, and first of all, as Americans, we're spoiled. So the American will become angry if the elevator door doesn't open.
Right.
Freak out. Americans became upset and angry when their Wi-Fi doesn't work. So imagine being falsely accused, no one believes you, and you're thrown in jail and locked up for 30 days, and they're telling you you're facing possibly 25, 30 years in prison, and everybody's against you. And lo and behold, who comes along? The investigator from the public defender's office, the public defender, the ones who always get stepped on and pushed on, or people given no credit for what they do. They're in there every day fighting for people who no one else cares about or no one else believes.
Right.
So public defenders, the investigators working with the public defender's office, investigators, criminal private attorneys, private investigators working criminal cases, they are underdogs. And why do I do what I do? Because we are the Davids versus Goliath.
Yeah.
You know, the government is Goliath. They have all the resources, all the money, all the manpower, and we have usually one lawyer and one investigator, if you're lucky, right?
Sometimes not even that. Yeah.
Facing an army. And it's amazing because when a criminal defense attorney, or specifically an assistant public defender, wins a trial against the government, against the state, that's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Because considering the resources, we shouldn't win anything.
Right.
Right? When you consider the lack of resources, the lack of support that we get in general, we should win nothing. So when a public defender wins a case, it's amazing, and it's a true defense of the United States Constitution. That Sixth Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the 14th Amendment, you name it. It's really, you know, defenders, the warriors that go out there. And
people tend to forget, unfortunately, if an innocent person gets convicted, the bad guy, the guilty guy, is still out there on the street, raping, murdering, robbing, burglarizing, whatever the case may be. I mean, and we've been in the system long enough, Brandon. I mean, we know that the majority of people are guilty.
Absolutely.
I mean, the law enforcement isn't out just picking innocent people off the street and throwing them in jail.
Absolutely
and letting
not.
them rob.
They're doing their job. That's all they're doing.
Exactly.
And they can only go by the facts that are given to them. If they are dealing with people who are lying and deceptive, like in this case, this one specific person lied to law enforcement.
Right.
Now, law enforcement made the mistake of identifying the wrong person.
Right.
They just didn't cross their T's and dot their I's. So I'm not going to let them off the hook on that one.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And then it got passed on, but that one person, she lied to them, and then they went with it. And luckily, checks and balances allowed the public defender's office to come in, stop it dead in its tracks. And this is one of those rare cases where they are going to prosecute the actual shooter.
Right.
Because it was done early.
Right.
You know, if this had gone to trial.
Oh, that's the other thing. You know, thank goodness for this investigation, because it was done early. It was uncovered. First of all, the innocent person is out after a month, not after 4 years waiting for a trial. Oh, goodness. I mean, let's just add COVID into this mix. Yeah. I mean, that, I think, is one of the most heartbreaking things I am seeing now. Speedy trial, and we've had guests on before that have talked about the fact that your right to a speedy trial under the law and Constitution has been suspended. But it's not only the speedy trial, it's the trial in general. I mean, and when you don't have that part of a criminal case looming to facilitate plea negotiations, to facilitate investigations and things like that, to resolve cases, these innocent people, and again, we're not talking about the jail being full of innocent people,
No.
and but for if you're the one out of everybody in the jail, oh my goodness, you're just languishing because of our situation, and it's just, it's heartbreaking.
I mean, one of the things that really drew me to the criminal defense side, and I was an investigator on the law enforcement side for years. And I still work with law enforcement on cases.
Oh, I know.
As a private
Absolutely.
investigator, I love being able to do both. I go where justice needs to be served. It allows me to do that. Whereas you work for one side or the other, you're kind of stuck in that lane.
Right.
I'd rather be able to do what I can do best where I can do it. But an entire American jurisprudence system is based upon that Blackstonian view that better that 10 guilty escape than one innocent suffer.
Right.
And sometimes I'll say that, and I use it all the time, and I'll see people go, and I'll go until I say, yeah, you shake your head and you think about it unless you were the innocent.
Right.
If you were the innocent, you would be all over that.
Yeah.
And that's what makes, the idea of America great. We're always growing as a nation. We're always growing as a country, as a people. We're evolving. And I'm sure 50 years from now, people are going to look back at us and think we were morons. And we did some really ridiculous things. Well, we do that now, so we know it's going to happen in 50 years.
Right.
What history will say, but we evolve, and we evolve as individuals, we evolve as people. Our system needs to evolve, and our system is evolving. I believe it's getting better. It's not good enough.
Right.
But as long as it's run by people, it will never be perfect because we are fallible. We are inherently flawed as human beings, as Socrates would say, and we can't expect it always to be perfect.
No. But I'm with you, and believe it or not, we have about a minute and a half left, Brandon. It goes so fast, and there's so much more to talk about. But I'm with you. I know that there are flaws in the system, and there are things that need to be improved. Oh my goodness, we see it every single day. I mean, it's
in the trenches.
Yes, but when I give speeches and people say, well, does the jury system work? I say, oh yeah, oh yeah. Thank goodness we have that system, because does it sometimes not work? Sure, but through all these years, and like you, I was a former prosecutor. I've been on the other side. Most of the time it does, and that is comforting.
It is. And again, it's always great to have an ideal and a goal to be 100%. At least we strive for it, recognizing we're never going to achieve it.
Right.
It's impossible, but we still got to strive and work hard. And you see that in your office. People work hard. They're believers, and they believe in justice.
Oh, and you got
justice and doing the right thing, and that's what matters. It's about defending everyone's constitutional rights and making sure they get a fair trial. Getting a fair trial doesn't mean you're going home.
Right.
It means you're going to get a fair trial.
Right.
And that is what's done.
And doing it ethically, as you said, which is beautiful.
And
which you always have done. You always have
Well,
done.
we've always shared that zero tolerance for unethical behavior. Period. Zero tolerance. Because you're doing no one any good.
No.
If you start, working in the shadows. It's I don't open and just do it right, and wave the flag.
Truth will prevail.
Yeah, truth will prevail.
Well, thank you. This was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks.